guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you don't know me already. I'm so excited to share with you all about the books that I read in March, but before I talk about all of that, I just want to do a quick pause and say if you're here watching this video, thank you so much. I'm always shocked that anybody watches these videos at all, so when I look at my videos and I see that they have any views, I'm always just so thankful. Now moving along to what you clicked on this video for, I'm going to be talking about 5 books that I read in March. I'm actually very proud of myself because my goal each month is to read 4 books. So reading 5 just feels really good because I know that I'm ahead of schedule already. I can't start any video off without having my matcha. I made this at home. Look how nice it looks. I've drank some already, which is why it's not full, but it tastes amazing. Okay, like I was saying, I read 5 books in the month of March, and I like to do these videos where I just tell you about the book in the order that I read them. So I'm literally going to do that. The first book I read in March, and then I'll talk about the second book and the third book, and so on and so on. Also, total side note, if you hear things in the background, it's probably because our windows are open. It is such a beautiful day. It's literally like 75 degrees out right now. It feels so good to have the sun shining and there's a little bit of a breeze coming through, so I needed to open the windows. I just love having the windows open when it's like springtime starting to warm up from winter. So if you hear background noise, it's probably cars and people kind of walking or driving past us. Okay, the first book that I read in the month of March was Just Friends by Haley Pham. I actually went to her book stop on her book tour in New York City, so I got this book the night before it came out and I literally just breezed through it. I took like 1 or 2 days and ran through this book because I was just so excited and kind of just riding that high from meeting her and talking to her. It was so cool. She is the sweetest person in the world. I really enjoyed this book overall. If you don't know, it's a contemporary YA romance about 2 people, Declan and Blair, who were the best of friends when they were younger, and then something happened that caused them to grow apart and they just kind of went their separate ways and lived their separate lives. Then a tragedy brings Claire back in town where she kind of reconnects with Declan, and you see where things go from there. Things unfold, you discover what happened that made them not best friends anymore, and kind of just see how they're able to rebuild or rekindle any sort of relationship again with each other. It was a very cute story. I hear a lot of people complaining about this book and saying that it was not written well. Totally disagree with that. I think this was written very well, especially for it being her first book. However, I can also understand why some people say that maybe she had some awkward word choices in certain scenes. When I was reading this book, I do agree that there were maybe just some awkward word choices for certain scenes, but that doesn't ruin the story at all or even make it like a badly written book. I still think the story overall was really cute. It was very sweet and emotional, and I enjoyed it. Next up, I read a book called The Measure by Nikki Erlich, I think is her name. I'm trying to think of what genre this book is. I think it's technically labeled as a speculative fiction, but that just sounds like too much. So I'm gonna go with it's just a YA fiction. The plot of this book takes place in the real world where one day every single person on the planet, whether you're homeless, whether you live in a mansion, whether you live in the middle of the woods, whether you live on the other side of the country, every single person in the world receives a little box on their doorstep that has either a short or a long strain inside of it. And this strain measures the length of your lifespan. This book focuses a lot on like morality and what would change in life if you knew how long exactly you had to live. I rated this book 3 stars. I thought the concept was super interesting, so I was really excited to read this book. However, the reason I only gave it 3 stars and not more was because I felt like there were a lot of loose ends that never got tied up. For example, we never find out where these strains came from and why they came. That's just never talked about in the book. It's never answered, and I think that was on purpose, but I didn't like it. I need my loose ends tied up, and because they weren't, I just felt like it was too unrealistic. Like I needed something more, and it just didn't give me the answers that I was looking for. The next book I read in March was called Be Amazed by Warren W. Wiersbe. This is a faith-based Christian book, and let me tell you, 5 stars. This book was amazing. I knew as soon as I read like the first 2 chapters of this book, actually I would say I even knew when I read the first chapter of this book, I knew it was going to be a 5-star, which I will tell you, I am not someone to give every Christian book 5 stars just because it's Christian. I have read some Christian books that I'm like, this is just either like badly written or I don't agree with what's being said in it or whatever the case is, and I will not rate it 5 stars if that's the case. This book basically takes you through 6 minor prophets in the Bible, and it breaks them down verse by verse and kind of just reveals the lessons that are to be learned throughout scripture in those specific prophets. True to its title, I was amazed reading this book. I felt like I learned so many new things that challenged me, that made me uncomfortable in like a good and healthy way. And you just learned so much about God and creation and just how much he truly loves us. Just absolutely incredible read. I really do think every Christian who's trying to either strengthen their faith or wants to be challenged in their faith should read this book. It was literally so good. Okay, I've talked about 3 of the 5 books that I read in the month of March, and for the last 2 books I'm actually going to talk about them together because they are 2 books within the same series. So I'm in the middle of reading a trilogy, and the last 2 books that I read in March were the first and second book in that trilogy, so I'm gonna group them together. So the last 2 books that I read in the month of March were Steelheart and Firefight, both by Brandon Sanderson, and these are 2 books in the Reckoners trilogy. I gave both of these books a 4.5, both also with the potential of being a 5 stars. So as you can tell, I loved these books. These books are absolutely amazing. Brandon Sanderson's writing is so incredibly good. It's almost not real. It's like unreal how entertaining and just how good he writes these stories. One thing that I really appreciate about his writing and about this story overall is that, like I was saying before when I was talking about The Measure and the loose ends not being tied up in that book, in this book series, every single loose end you can imagine is being tied up and answered in one way or another, and I literally appreciate that so much. This book series is absolutely incredible. Not only is the writing super good, very easy to read, but also the characters are so fun and funny. They are so funny. There have been multiple times where I've like audibly laughed at something that they have said or like an inner dialogue thought that they had. The plots, the subplots, everything coming together is just perfect. Like I said, it literally has the potential of being 5 stars, so I am holding my breath while reading this 3rd book, and I'm very excited to see how he concludes this series and just how everything that hasn't been tied up yet comes together, because we are discovering things even still now in the 3rd book. I don't know if I mentioned this, but it is like a fantasy dystopian kind of genre vibe, but it does have a subplot of romance, and the romance in this book it is literally so good. It's definitely not like a main plot, but again, the way that he writes the romance into the story just has you like gripping the pages like, oh my gosh, just I need to know what happens with them. Those are the 5 books that I read in the month of March. I am having a really good reading year so far. If you've either read any of these books or if you have any book recommendations for me based off of the books I told you about, please drop them in the comments and let me know about the books you've read or about what you would recommend me to read. I'm always looking for new books to read or even like hidden gems within the book world, so please drop them in the comments. I would so appreciate that. And yeah, if you liked this video, don't forget to also subscribe because I would really appreciate that. That would mean a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!